A much needed win for the Bulls tonight, albeit a game they absolutely should have won, given how shorthanded the Raptors were tonight, especially with no Siakam, Van Fleet, and OG Anunoby. But we'll take the win, very much needed after losing back-to-back games against the other shorthanded teams in the Sixers and the Heat this week. This game was a little sloppy at times, and it's questionable whether the Bulls would have been able to beat the Raptors if they were fully healthy. But hey, that's the nature of this season. You never know who is going to be in the lineup on any given night. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to share the results of the poll question that I had put out earlier, where I asked you guys what you thought about the idea of bringing in Joakim Noah onto the coaching staff of the Bulls to whip some of these young big guys into shape. Keep in mind, this hasn't been rumored, or there haven't been any reports coming out that this is a possibility, more just something that I personally think makes a lot of sense. And anyway, you can see from the results that most of you like the idea. Just a handful thought that, they weren't really for it. I'm obviously all for something like this because it's not like hiring Noah impacts the Bulls' salary cap or anything like that. It's not my money that they would be paying him, so why not bring in a high-energy guy who was a former All-Star, All-Defensive Team player, Defensive Player of the Year, to coach guys like Wendell, Lauri, and Gafford. That's just my opinion. But anyway, let's talk about tonight's game. So as you know, Billy Donovan did make some adjustments to the starting lineup that I mentioned in my video earlier this morning. And if you caught my video, I was all for this move. I think it was pretty clear some adjustments needed to be made, particularly at the point guard and center position. I still think Coby and Wendell are fine players, but the Bulls have just continued to get off to slow starts. And bringing in Satoransky back into the starting lineup, a guy who is more experienced, a better facilitator, and a guy like Thaddeus Young, who has had an incredible season coming off the bench, and a big piece in closing minute situations. So to me, it made all the sense in the world. And it worked tonight. Granted, I think, this game in general needs to be taken with a grain of salt because, again, this wasn't the Raptors team we know and are familiar with. And really, they let the Raptors hang around in this one until the fourth quarter, where the Bulls finally took over. I guess in a way it was good to test out a new starting lineup rotation in a game like this, where it was an easy win for the Bulls because at times they were a bit shaky, just in terms of their overall general chemistry and flow on the court. And that comes whenever you start putting new lineups together. It takes a little for guys to start getting used to each other in game situations. But even by the second half, you could see the overall flow of the game was coming much more naturally to them. Now, there were some great highlight plays tonight, mainly from Patrick Williams. He had himself some incredible dunks on feeds from Thagic. It looked like a thing of beauty out there, but Patrick Williams had himself a career high tonight, scoring 23 points on very efficient shooting, going 9 for 14. He also had 6 rebounds and 4 assists and a block and a steal. This was the best game of his career thus far, and it was great to see the rookie being more aggressive in getting to the basket. You can already tell he's one player who is going to benefit from this new starting lineup in guys that have the playmaking ability to feed him the ball and get him better looks. He also had 0 turnovers tonight, so all around a great game for him. Markkanen didn't have the best game in terms of his overall shooting, 13 points, shooting 4 for 12. He was a little more aggressive on the defensive end though, so I like seeing that. He also had 7 rebounds. Again, I really need to see him crash the boards more for his size and strength. Thaddeus Young in his first game in the starting lineup goes 5 for 10 from the floor, 10 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. One of these days, the guy is going to get his first career triple-double. Maybe in the next game, which will be his 1,000th career game, that would be quite a feat. Satoransky played great in his first start of the year. He was really great at running the floor and managing the offense nicely, 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. The other thing I liked about Sato is that he's scrappy. Not the most athletic guy, but he is scrappy on defense, and you can see that. You saw that anyway tonight in some of those hustle plays and 50-50 balls that he was going after. Lavine, a really quiet night for him. I mean, he still scored 15 points, but for him, that's a quiet night. He only took 10 shots the whole game, but what I liked about that was that, Zach didn't feel the need to take over. He saw that his team was capable of holding down some of the offensive load, so he didn't need to try and make a play on every possession like we've sometimes been used to seeing from him. 15 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, but Lavine was actually plus 16 on the night in terms of box plus minus, so the impact on the court that he still has obviously is incredibly valuable despite not him having the best offensive night. Now for the bench, there were great pieces that I love seeing. First of all, Otto Porter finally had himself a nice game. He does still look a little slow at times on the court from what we initially seen at the start of the season, but in 21 minutes he was actually somewhat productive. 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. He was plus 15 on the night as well. And then how about Denzel Valentine? I mean, in my earlier video, I was talking about the importance of the Bulls needing high energy guys on the squad. And I guess I completely forgot about Denzel because he is one of those guys that can get a team hyped. Granted, I think a lot of times he takes some pretty ill-advised shots and doesn't have the highest basketball IQ, but he hit some big threes in the fourth that put the Bulls well in front of the lead, and then they never looked back after that. So that was really critical in that moment. And finally, Wendell and Coby. Their first games coming off the bench this season, and actually Wendell's first game off the bench in his career. Give them credit. They handled it really well. They came out strong. They didn't let it get to their heads. I think the thing I was most impressed with was how aggressive Wendell was in the paint. Now, he didn't finish a lot of the time at the basket, but I'll take it if he's bodying up guys, being more aggressive, empowering his way to the hoop, and snatching those rebounds, specifically those offensive boards, to give the Bulls second chance opportunities, which he had 4 offensive rebounds tonight. He finished with a double-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds. And then from Coby, not the best shooting night for him, especially from 3, although the Bulls really struggled from 3 as a team tonight in general. But Coby, 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. Look, I think both of these guys, they have the ability to be solid players in the NBA, and I think there is still a lot of development to be had there, and coming off the bench and having them work in another unit might be the learning and development that they need to work on those areas where they are deficient. I mean, Coby was plus 24 on the night in the 27 minutes that he played, so his presence is still greatly needed on the court for the Bulls to be successful. I just don't think it comes with him being the Bulls' primary playmaker. It's just not where he excels at, not at this point anyway. Now, there were some quotes from Billy Donovan in his post-game interview, and this came via some tweets that Rob Schaefer had put out, and I'll throw these up, and I thought it was right on the money in how Donovan explained his reasoning for the change. I'm mainly looking at the first one on the top there, that these 5 guys weren't really making each other better. You can call it due to maturity, their skill sets not complementing each other, but whatever it is, it wasn't working. The other thing I liked hearing from Donovan was where he said, the number one thing that goes into winning is sacrifice. This was in reference to his philosophy on player development, which is incredibly key. And like I said, what I liked was how well Coby and Wendell responded in handling that sacrifice for the betterment of the team. Because again, they're both good players and they work very hard, but they also recognize that when things aren't going well, for the overall team success, adjustments need to be made, specifically in the areas where they have been struggling with most recently. I will say I'm still going to harp on the Bulls and their 3-point shooting. I mean, the Bulls almost shot their way out of this game until the fourth quarter with how poorly they were shooting the 3 ball. I've said it many times, but I would love to see the Bulls driving more to the basket when those long-range shots aren't falling. Obviously, it's great when they're knocking those down, but when you're shooting 27% from 3 as a team, it's time to focus on going inside and taking higher percentage shots. Granted, the Bulls did still get a lot of points in the paint tonight. I mean, I won't deny that, but you cannot be putting up that many 3-pointers and missing them and just continuing to shoot more and more until some of those start going down. But what was great to see? How about the fact that the Bulls only had 11 turnovers for the whole game? I think the Bulls had one game where they had 11 turnovers in one quarter alone. On top of that, the ball movement was incredible. Most of their points tonight were assisted. 35 assists for the whole team. Talk about a great assist to turnover ratio. It was actually the best ratio for the Bulls that they've had all season. So all in all, I mean, it was a great game for the Bulls, a much needed win. Again, you do have to take it a little differently given how shorthanded the Raptors were, but a win is a win, and hopefully the Bulls can take this momentum going into next week. The Bulls will be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday. Hopefully the Bulls can get some revenge after that bad loss they had earlier in the season where they let the Thunder come back after being down 20 points. I'll have my weekly preview video out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again as always, guys, for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one.